Every 4 years, the world holds its breath. Billions unite, their collective gaze fixed upon a single spectacle, a ball, 2 goals, 22 players. This is football, the beautiful game, a universal language spoken on every continent, transcending borders, cultures, and creeds. Its roar echoes from packed stadiums to dusty village pitches, a testament to its unparalleled global reach and profound emotional power. Yet, for all its colossal presence in the modern consciousness, the true genesis of this intricate dance of strategy and skill remains largely unknown, its humble origins obscured by the very magnitude of its present-day fame. It did not emerge fully formed from a grand global decree, nor did it spring from ancient, forgotten rituals. The roots of this ubiquitous passion lie not in the sun-drenched amphitheaters of antiquity, but in the soot-stained, industrial heart of a Victorian English city. This is Sheffield, England, a city forged in the relentless fires of the Industrial Revolution, a place where iron met innovation, and where the spirit of invention thrived not just in machinery, but in the very structures of society and leisure. In the mid-19th century, before the precise codified game we recognize today existed, football was a chaotic, often brutal pastime. It was a wild, unbridled pursuit, a melee of shifting rules, frequently violent, and rarely consistent. Each town, each school, each group of enthusiasts played by their own interpretation, making true competition impossible, a shared passion fragmented by local custom. The idea of a universal game, understood and enjoyed by all, was a distant, perhaps even unimaginable, dream. From this fertile ground of necessity and a deep-seated love for the sport, a singular entity emerged, a beacon of purpose that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of global sport, the Sheffield Football Club. Founded in 1857, this was no ordinary sporting association. It was the club, the very first of its kind, anywhere in the world. Its formation marked a pivotal moment, a conscious step towards organizing the amorphous game into something coherent, something replicable. But their impact extended far beyond mere existence as pioneers. Within its nascent ranks, a fundamental realization took hold: for the game to truly flourish, to transcend its local skirmishes and become something universal, it needed a common language, a shared understanding of its very fabric. From this profound necessity, a revolutionary framework emerged, meticulously crafted by these early visionaries: the Sheffield Rules. These were not just arbitrary guidelines. They were the foundational DNA of the modern game, codifying elements that resonate in every match played today. Concepts that now seem intrinsic to football: the corner kick, the crossbar defining the goal, the very notion of a foul, were not always present. They were invented, debated, and refined within this small, determined community in Sheffield. This pioneering spirit, born of a desire for fair play and structured competition, laid the foundational stones for a global obsession, transforming a chaotic local pastime into a sport capable of uniting billions. This is the untold tale of how Sheffield, a city synonymous with industry and grit, quietly, profoundly, invented modern football, forever altering the landscape of sport and unifying the world through the beautiful game. It is a story of foresight, community, and an enduring legacy that continues to shape our shared global experience. The mid-19th century landscape of Sheffield, Britain's burgeoning steel city, offered a unique crucible for innovation, not merely in metallurgy but in the very fabric of social organization. This was a city defined by relentless industriousness, where the clang of hammers and the roar of furnaces were the constant soundtrack to life. Yet, beneath this industrial veneer, a vibrant community was forming, a populace swelling with migrants drawn by the promise of work, seeking not just economic stability but also avenues for communal engagement and recreational release. The sheer density of population, coupled with the burgeoning prosperity of a new professional class, created a distinct social dynamic ripe for the emergence of structured leisure. Consider the prevailing ethos of the time, often dubbed muscular Christianity, which championed the idea that physical exertion and athletic competition were not just healthy pursuits but vital components of moral development and character building. This philosophy resonated deeply within Sheffield's more enlightened circles, fostering a belief that organized sport could instill discipline, teamwork, and resilience. It moved beyond the raw, often anarchic, village games of old, advocating for a more refined, purposeful form of physical activity. This intellectual current provided a fertile backdrop for individuals seeking to elevate a simple kickabout into something more substantial. Within this environment, two figures emerged as pivotal architects of the game's future: Nathaniel Creswick and William Prest. These were not idle aristocrats, but men deeply embedded in the city's professional life. Creswick, a solicitor; Prest, a prominent businessman. Their backgrounds instilled in them a pragmatic approach, a keen eye for order, and an understanding of the necessity of written conventions. They were avid participants in the informal, often haphazard football matches that dotted the local parks and fields, keenly aware of the inconsistencies and disputes that arose from the lack of universal understanding. Their shared frustration with this chaotic status quo, coupled with their inherent organizational acumen, became the catalyst for change. Furthermore, many of these early football enthusiasts, including Creswick and Prest themselves, were already deeply involved in local cricket clubs. This existing infrastructure of sportsmanship and club organization proved incredibly influential. Cricket provided a ready-made blueprint for membership, governance, and the scheduling of fixtures. When the cricket season concluded, these athletes, accustomed to physical exertion and team camaraderie, found themselves with a void to fill during the colder months. Football, in its nascent, unstructured form, offered a vigorous winter pursuit. The transition from the measured pace of cricket to the dynamic energy of football was natural, and the organizational principles of the summer game seamlessly transferred to their winter counterpart. Consequently, the formation of Sheffield Football Club in the autumn of 1857 was not an isolated event, but the culmination of these converging forces: a city's demographic evolution, a prevailing philosophical belief in the virtue of sport, and the practical experiences of individuals accustomed to formal club structures. It was a conscious, deliberate act of creation, driven by a desire for a unified, equitable playing field. The club's initial meetings, held in the city's bustling thoroughfares and quiet professional offices, were less about grand pronouncements and more about meticulous deliberation. The early members, a mix of professionals, tradesmen, and even some working-class individuals, engaged in spirited debates, meticulously dissecting every aspect of the game they loved. This process, rooted in the very practical challenges of playing together, inevitably led them to address the fundamental question: how could they play fairly and consistently if everyone had their own version of the rules? This pragmatic imperative, born of shared passion and a distinctly Sheffield resolve, propelled them towards an unprecedented act of sporting codification. The immediate aftermath of Sheffield FC's formation brought with it a profound, perhaps unforeseen, challenge: the sheer isolation of being the world's sole organized football club. Unlike later pioneers who could test their mettle against established rivals, Sheffield found itself in a competitive vacuum. This unique predicament necessitated an inward focus, transforming initial matches into intense internal affairs. Spectators would often witness spirited contests between probables and possibles, or married versus single teams, a testament to the club's determination to foster competitive play even in the absence of external opponents. These intra-club encounters, while vital for honing skills and building camaraderie, simultaneously underscored the urgent need for other clubs to emerge, a realization that spurred their next critical endeavor. This period of self-reliance became a crucible for refining the nascent Sheffield rules. The guidelines, initially drafted with foresight, proved their worth and revealed their shortcomings through rigorous application on the field. Imagine the spirited debates that erupted during a match, the heated discussions about what constituted a fair challenge or the precise moment a player was offside. These weren't abstract academic exercises, but immediate, practical disputes that demanded resolution. Consequently, the rulebook evolved not in a vacuum, but through a dynamic process of trial and error, with each on-field disagreement serving as a catalyst for clarification and amendment. This iterative refinement, born from the very act of playing, cemented the rules' practical utility and ensured their adaptability. Moreover, the structured approach to football championed by Sheffield FC faced a subtle, yet pervasive cultural inertia. Many still viewed the game as a village pastime, a chaotic outlet for youthful energy rather than a disciplined athletic pursuit, convincing the broader public, and indeed other potential players, that codified rules enhanced rather than stifled the game's excitement was a significant hurdle. This wasn't merely about physical obstacles like finding suitable grounds. It was about shifting ingrained perceptions. The club had to demonstrate, through their disciplined play and the sheer enjoyment derived from it, that a structured game offered a superior, more equitable, and ultimately more compelling experience. than the unstructured brawls that often passed for football. The inherent dangers of the uncodified game also presented a compelling argument for change. Without clear boundaries on physical contact or objective measures for scoring, injuries were commonplace, and disputes often escalated into genuine altercations. The Sheffield pioneers understood that for football to gain wider appeal and legitimacy, it needed to be safer and fairer. The introduction of concepts like the free kick for fouls or the clear definition of a goal not only streamlined gameplay but actively mitigated the game's inherent brutality. This transformation from a potentially dangerous freefall to a sport governed by mutual understanding marked a significant step in its social acceptance, laying the groundwork for its future as a widely embraced leisure activity. As a direct consequence of their isolation, Sheffield FC embarked on a subtle but effective campaign of evangelism. They didn't just play, they promoted the idea of structured football. This involved inviting local schools, factory teams, and other informal groups to observe their matches, disseminating copies of their rulebook, and actively encouraging the formation of new clubs. This outreach was not a grand, orchestrated marketing blitz, but a grassroots effort driven by the practical necessity of needing opponents. Their vision extended beyond their own immediate enjoyment. They sought to cultivate a wider ecosystem of organized football, recognizing that their own existence and the future of the game depended on it. This early, quiet, missionary work, born from the formative trials of being the first, proved instrumental in seeding the game's future growth, creating the very competitive landscape that would allow football to eventually flourish far beyond the industrial heartland of Sheffield. The isolation that once defined Sheffield FC's pioneering existence began to yield to the burgeoning promise of broader competition. A pivotal moment arrived on December 26, 1860, not on a grand stage, but amidst the modest setting of Sandygate Road, a short distance from the club's birthplace. Here, the world witnessed its very first inter-club football match. Sheffield FC, the seasoned originators, faced Hallam FC, a newly formed rival from a neighboring district. This contest transcended a mere game. It was a profound validation of the codified rules, a tangible demonstration that organized football could thrive beyond a single club's internal skirmishes. The atmosphere, though lacking the colossal crowds of later eras, crackled with a distinct anticipation, a sense of witnessing something truly novel. The match itself, played under the precise framework of the Sheffield rules, proved that a shared understanding of the game could indeed foster exhilarating and fair competition, a blueprint for countless future encounters. Subsequently, the success of this inaugural inter-club fixture ignited a spark, demonstrating the viability of competitive football and prompting other nascent groups to consider forming their own teams. News of these structured matches, often relayed through local newspapers and word of mouth among enthusiasts, slowly began to propagate beyond the immediate Sheffield region. This wasn't an overnight explosion of popularity, but a gradual, organic diffusion. Individuals and informal teams in nearby towns, hearing of the clarity and excitement offered by the Sheffield rules, started to adopt them, either wholly or with minor adaptations. The printed rulebooks, simple pamphlets distributed by Sheffield FC, became invaluable blueprints, empowering others to replicate the success witnessed in Yorkshire. This burgeoning interest signaled football's nascent transition from a local curiosity to a sport with genuine regional appeal. Beyond the immediate vicinities, the spread of the Sheffield rules was often facilitated by the movement of people. Tradesmen, students, and professionals traveling for work or education carried with them not just their belongings but also their enthusiasm for the structured game. They introduced the principles they had learned in Sheffield to new communities, acting as informal ambassadors for the sport. This human network, rather than any centralized marketing effort, proved instrumental in seeding organized football across various parts of England. Consider the effort involved. Players would often travel significant distances, sometimes for days, to participate in matches or teach the game to eager newcomers, a testament to their unwavering dedication and the sheer allure of this evolving pastime. The commitment extended beyond the pitch, encompassing the logistical challenges of arranging fixtures, securing pitches, and managing rudimentary club finances, all driven by a profound, shared passion. This period also witnessed the subtle emergence of local rivalries, not born of ancient feuds, but from the competitive spirit fostered by regular inter-club play. These rivalries, while friendly in their early manifestations, added a vital layer of drama and engagement. They provided a focal point for community pride, transforming a simple leisure activity into a source of collective identity. Spectators, once limited to observing internal club matches, now had genuine allegiances, cheering for their local teams against neighboring adversaries. This burgeoning popularity was not merely about the game itself, but about the social glue it provided, offering a new avenue for communal gathering and shared experience in an increasingly urbanized and industrialized society. Furthermore, as more clubs adopted the Sheffield rules, the practical benefits of a standardized game became undeniably clear. Disputes were minimized, the flow of play was enhanced, and the very concept of a fair contest gained universal acceptance among those who embraced the framework. This growing consensus, however, also highlighted the limitations of a regional set of rules in a country where other, divergent interpretations of football still existed. The very success of the Sheffield model in attracting new adherents, ironically underscored the eventual need for an even broader, nationally unified system, a challenge that would soon present itself as the game continued its inexorable climb towards widespread recognition. Reflecting on this journey so far, one discerns a profound alchemy at play, transforming a rudimentary, often violent pastime into a structured pursuit. The raw, untamed energy of early kicking games, once little more than localized skirmishes, yearned for a guiding hand, a unifying vision that could elevate mere physical exertion to a realm of strategic engagement and shared understanding. This yearning found its crucible in a specific corner of the industrializing world, where a unique confluence of social currents, practical needs, and a pioneering spirit converged to forge an entirely new paradigm for athletic competition. The very essence of this transformation lay in the meticulous crafting of a shared language for the pitch. Imagine a world where every conversation required a new dialect, where every interaction was fraught with misunderstanding. Such was the landscape of early football, yet a dedicated collective embarked upon the arduous task of creating a universal lexicon, not through grand pronouncements, but through practical application and persistent refinement. This was a living document, shaped by the very friction of play, evolving in response to the dynamic realities of competitive endeavor. It was a testament to the power of collective ingenuity, demonstrating how a commitment to order could unlock unprecedented levels of enjoyment and fairness, replacing arbitrary chaos with a framework for genuine contest. The initial isolation faced by these early innovators, far from being a hindrance, proved to be an unexpected catalyst. Without external benchmarks, they were compelled to look inward, to define their own parameters, and to perfect their internal systems. This period of self-reliance fostered an intrinsic understanding of what constituted equitable play, deepening their commitment to the very principles they were articulating. It was akin to a nascent star, condensing its own matter under immense pressure, building the core density required before it could radiate its light outwards. This foundational self-definition provided the robust internal structure necessary for what was to follow, preparing the ground for expansion. As the concept matured, the human impulse to share a profound passion began to ripple outwards. It wasn't a centrally orchestrated campaign, but rather an organic diffusion, carried by the very individuals who had embraced this new form of organized sport. They became quiet evangelists, spreading a new gospel of play through example, instruction, and the simple act of inviting others to join in. This human-centric propagation, fueled by an undeniable enthusiasm, transcended geographical boundaries, planting seeds of structured competition in new communities, fostering a subtle yet profound shift in how leisure was conceived and executed. These small, consistent efforts laid the groundwork for a broader acceptance, transforming local curiosities into regional phenomena. The emergence of friendly rivalries, born from these burgeoning connections, added a crucial dimension to the developing landscape. Competition, once a source of discord, became a powerful social adhesive, forging new bonds and igniting local pride. It provided a common narrative, a shared experience that transcended individual pursuits, elevating the game beyond mere physical exercise to a vehicle for communal identity. This dynamic interplay between cooperation in establishing the rules and competition within those rules created a compelling spectacle, drawing more participants and observers into its magnetic field. Reflecting on these intricate developments, it becomes evident that the cumulative effect of these pioneering efforts was far greater than the sum of their individual parts. What began as a pragmatic response to local needs evolved into something with far-reaching implications, a blueprint for a global phenomenon. The quiet dedication, the iterative refinement, and the grassroots dissemination all converged to establish not just a game, but a new way of organizing human endeavor and shared experience. The very architecture of engagement was being redefined, setting the stage for a transformation that would resonate across continents, fundamentally altering the fabric of global leisure and collective identity. The threads woven in this industrial heartland, seemingly modest in their beginnings, were in fact creating the very loom upon which a worldwide tapestry of sport would eventually be intricately crafted. From the soot-stained pitches of Victorian Sheffield, a quiet revolution took root, its echoes now resounding across every corner of the globe. The story of Sheffield Football Club, the world's first, is not merely a chronicle of sporting origins. It is a profound testament to the power of human ingenuity, foresight, and the unifying force of shared purpose. What began as a pragmatic solution to chaotic local games, born of a community's desire for fair and consistent play, blossomed into an intricate framework that would fundamentally redefine leisure, competition, and collective identity for billions. It was an invention not of grand design, but of meticulous, iterative refinement, a process driven by the very players whose passion demanded order. The true genius of Sheffield's pioneers lay in their understanding that structure, far from being restrictive, was liberating. By codifying rules defining the goal with a crossbar, introducing the strategic corner kick, establishing clear boundaries for fouls, they didn't just constrain a wild pastime, they unleashed its potential. They created a universal language for the pitch, a blueprint that allowed disparate groups to come together, understand one another, and engage in meaningful, equitable competition. This was a radical departure from the localized, often brutal skirmishes that preceded it. It transformed a chaotic free-for-all into a disciplined art form where skill, strategy, and teamwork could truly flourish, making the game accessible and enjoyable for an ever-widening audience. These were not celebrated figures in their time, not national heroes recognized for their profound impact. They were solicitors, businessmen, and everyday enthusiasts, driven by a simple yet potent conviction that a beloved game deserved a common ground. Their vision extended beyond their own immediate enjoyment, encompassing a desire to foster a broader community of players, to create an ecosystem where the sport could truly thrive. The painstaking efforts to draft, debate, and disseminate the Sheffield rules, the willingness to travel great distances to play against newly formed clubs, and the quiet determination to spread their gospel of organized football all speak to a commitment that transcends mere recreation. It was a foundational act of cultural engineering, laying the very infrastructure for a global phenomenon. Today, every precise pass, every soaring header, every jubilant goal celebration on pitches from Wembley to distant village fields carries the indelible imprint of those early decisions made in Sheffield. The corner kick, a moment of acute tension and strategic opportunity, is a direct legacy of their innovation. The crossbar, the very definition of success or failure, stands as a silent monument to their clarity. These are not just historical footnotes, they are the living, breathing elements that continue to shape the drama and excitement of every match played worldwide. The seeds planted in that industrial crucible have grown into a vast, sprawling oak, its branches stretching across continents, providing shade and sustenance for a global community united by the beautiful game. Ultimately, the story of how Sheffield invented modern football offers a powerful, enduring lesson that extends far beyond the boundaries of sport. It reminds us that profound change often begins not with a colossal mandate, but with the focused determination of a few individuals addressing a practical need. It underscores the transformative power of clear rules and shared understanding in fostering collaboration and enabling universal participation. It is a testament to the idea that even in the most seemingly mundane acts of organization, a spark of genius can ignite a movement that reshapes the world. The legacy of Sheffield is not just the game itself, but the enduring principle that vision, collaboration, and a commitment to fairness can transcend local boundaries, creating something truly universal and eternally resonant. The true practice of this legacy begins now, in recognizing the quiet origins of the extraordinary, and understanding how the seemingly small acts of the past continue to animate the grand spectacles of the present.